Welcome back, Gritters. This is Grace and Grit, where we talk about the real stuff, the messy stuff, the unspoken stuff, and we have honest conversations about life, motherhood, marriage, and everything in between. This is a space with no judgment and no shame, just grace, growth, and the peace of knowing that we are not alone in the middle of it. Today's conversation is one of those real ones, the kind that doesn't always look dramatic on the outside, but if we're honest, it can quietly shape everything. I want to talk about something that I think a lot of marriages go through, but not a lot of people say out loud. There's a season when you're in love, you're committed, you mean well, but you're not actually safe with the other person yet. And not because the other person is unsafe, not because there's abuse or betrayal, but because you yourself you don't know how to be vulnerable yet without feeling exposed. That's a very different thing. When my husband and I first got married, we both brought history with us. Not baggage in a dramatic, chaotic sense, just history. Past hurts, past relationships, past misunderstandings, the ways that we had learned to survive, the ways that we had learned how to protect ourselves. And what I didn't realize at the time was that I had triggers, and I didn't even know that they existed. I wasn't trying to be difficult. I wasn't trying to create problems. And I wasn't trying to push him away. But I was very quick to react or overreact. I was quick to defend. I was quick to interpret a tone. And I was very quick to assume meaning. And even quicker to fill in the blanks that maybe weren't even there. And I didn't even know I was doing it. The important part to know is this wasn't because of him. It was because I had trusted before, and I had been burned. I had opened up before and been hurt terribly bad. So somewhere deep inside of me, even though I love my husband deeply, there was this quiet, almost silent reflex that said, do not let that happen again. And that reflex, it does not ask for permission. It doesn't wait for logic. It just activates. And he had his own reflexes too. So what does that look like? Well, for us, it looked like two people who loved each other, but we were walking around each other. We weren't constantly fighting. We weren't living in chaos, but we were careful, guarded, interpreting more, everything, instead of just asking. We were feeling everything instead of just explaining. We reacted instead of clarifying. For me, one of the biggest things, I didn't want to be a nag. We've all heard that term. That word, it carried so much weight with me. I didn't want to be too much. I didn't want to be overly emotional. I just plain and simple did not want to be the wife that always had an issue or was always bringing something up. I didn't want to be the source of tension in our home. So instead of saying when something hurt, I swallowed it. Instead of asking for clarification for something that felt off, I minimized it. Instead of asking for reassurance, I just told myself not to overreact. And instead of going back and finishing a conversation that we got interrupted somehow, I just let it drop because I didn't want to be the one to press the issue. And I mean, the crazy part, swallowing all that, it didn't create peace. It created pressure. And pressure doesn't disappear, it builds. On the other side, when hard conversations come up, he would sometimes walk away. Not storm out, not abandon, not punishing me with silence. He was simply just creating a little space. But at that time, it felt like rejection. It felt like distance. It felt like the beginning of the end. My nervous system, my mind, and my heart, it didn't say, he's regulating. It said, you're being left. So I would react. Sometimes sharp, regrettably. Sometimes extremely emotional. Sometimes defensive. And sometimes I would just react internally, but intensely. And then I would be quiet and cold. And there were times that I would escalate, times that I would shut down. And then there was sometimes that I would press him harder because I felt like I was losing ground. And to him, he wasn't feeling safe either. So he would pull back more. And that's how you end up walking around each other. Same house, same bed, same life. But you're emotionally circling each other, walking on eggshells, trying not to trigger, trying not to escalate. Both of you are trying not to be too much. Both of you are trying hard not to be misunderstood, but you're also trying to protect yourselves instead of just connecting until it builds. And it built for us. Small misunderstandings, small little unspoken hurts, small misinterpretations, and small assumptions. None of them catastrophic, but collectively, very heavy. We would we would go through these cycles where something very minor would hit one of our triggers. We'd misread it, get defensive, shut down, and then eventually it would blow up in our faces because neither of us were actually saying what was underneath it. And here's the sad, honest part. It wasn't until I was afraid of losing our marriage that I realized we couldn't keep living like this. And I tried everything. I bought books. I tried to force conversations. I pushed things on him. I accused him of not wanting to fix this. I did everything wrong. And we were in a bad spot. But not because we were toxic. Not because the love wasn't there. But because unspoken fear slowly erodes connection. I remember realizing that my reactions, even though they made sense to me, they were creating distance. And I was trying to protect the relationship from hurt. But my defense mode, it was it was straining it. It was easier for me to think I'm reacting because you did something. It was so much harder to admit I'm reacting because something in me feels threatened. And that shift didn't happen overnight. It started with communication. And believe me, I probably had the same reaction that you're having right now to that word, communication. Real communication. All the books said it, all the articles said it, but it was like, but I'm trying to make him talk to me and he won't talk to me. Communication doesn't work in my house. But it does when you're actually, honestly open to it. Not hints, not sarcasm, not emotional shutdowns, not silent treatment, not passive aggressive remarks that carry a message, but we're not saying it plainly. It started with me. It started gently, and it started with sentences like, okay, logically, I know you're not trying to hurt my feelings, but this feels like something else, and I think I may be misunderstanding you. That sentence changed everything because it slowed my reflex and it separated my feelings from the facts. And it gave him space to explain. And most of the time, he would immediately say, oh no, that's not what I meant. What I was trying to say was this, and I'm so sorry you took that the wrong way. Or I'm so sorry it came across the wrong way, or it came out wrong. And then just like that, this entire story I had created in my head would shift. We had to learn the hard way. Just because something feels triggering doesn't mean it's threatening. Triggered doesn't equal danger. And that was huge for me. My body would react before my mind did. But I didn't have to let that first reaction determine the outcome. Once that door to communication was open, I learned that him walking away from a hard topic, he wasn't walking away from me. It was him creating a boundary for himself that allowed him to feel safe enough and to come back grounded, to come back after his initial defense reaction. And that required trust, not blind trust, intentional trust. The kind that says, my past was real, it shaped me, but this is not that. We also had to learn to accept each other's flaws. And we've all heard that. Nobody's perfect. You have to accept people for who they are. That's easy enough. But you also have to be able to accept them without seeing them as attacks. So, my husband forgets to tell me things. Not because he's hiding something, not because he's being secretive. He literally just forgets. He will mean to tell me something, get distracted, and it's gone. And early on, when I would find out later, my brain would fill in the worst case scenario. Why didn't he tell me? What else is he not telling me? Why is he keeping me out of the loop? But the truth, he just forgot. And still have, a problem where I will start telling him something and it takes me a long time to get to the point, and I'll only get part of it out, and then we'll get interrupted. A phone call for work or something like that, or the kids, or anything. Life happens. But I don't circle back to finish the conversation. Not because I'm hiding information from him, but because I'll get pulled away or he'll get pulled away. We both get busy and I forget to complete it. So then I'm like, I told you, you didn't listen to me. And I never gave him the chance to be like, girl, you didn't tell me all of it. So you have normal human flaws that if you filter those through insecurity, it can look like betrayal. It can look like an attack. He forgets something. I see it as secrecy. I don't finish explaining something. He interprets that as withholding. But neither of us are doing that intentionally. So we had to learn that our flaws were not attacks on each other. Forgetfulness is not deception. Interruption is not manipulation. And difference is not disrespect. And that's where we really started to see change happen. Because if we hadn't have caught it, resentment would have formed quickly. And it quickly, but yet not quickly. So gradually, a little bit each day, our trust would have thinned. The distance that we already had, it would have grown. And the affection that was already almost non existent some days would have cooled even more. Our conversations would have shortened. And love, it wouldn't have exploded dramatically. It would have just starved quietly. And looking back, we were not trying to destroy our marriage. We were both actually trying to do everything right. But we were both unintentionally participating in something. The art of self destruction. Not betrayal, not chaos, not scandal, erosion. Silence instead of conversation, assumption instead of clarification, defense instead of curiosity. We were walking around each other and not walking towards each other. And if we had kept going like that, it would have self destructed. Not in flames, but in distance. And distance left long enough becomes indifference. And that realization, oh, that hit me. Because it wasn't about who was right, it was about what we're building. And what we were building at that time was space between us. So we had to together choose something different. We chose to walk towards each other. We chose to say, help me understand what you're saying. We chose to say, that hurt me. We chose to admit, I think I may be taking this the wrong way. I think I may be reacting bigger than this moment actually is. We chose to circle back. We chose to make time to finish those conversations. And we chose to always assume good intent. And everything shifted. Peace grew. Trust thickened. Safety expanded. Oh, we still have triggers. We're still human. But we don't let things just sit. We don't shove them down and forget about them. We try to repair it quickly, even if it's not that day. Even if we do still have to take space and walk away, we still talk about it. We still address it. We still repair. And we clarify often, every day. We communicate intentionally. We're not just talking about things to be talking to each other or to spend time with each other. Now, there are times we talk about nothing and it's not important and we're just spending time together. But when there's something important on the table, we no longer avoid it because we're afraid of the outcome. We approach it differently and we say, okay, can we talk about this? Because it gives the other person a chance to say, I'm not in a space to talk about this right now, but that doesn't mean I don't want to. It just means right now my brain can't go where you need me to go. And then when we both feel safe enough, we talk about it. And 9 times out of 10, it always comes out to be someone misunderstood, someone misinterpreted, and then we clear things up and we find out that this was a nothing thing, but we created something big out of it. But we were still able to show each other love, respect, and compassion until we could actually talk about it. We stopped walking on eggshells and walking around each other, and we started actually going to each other. And that changed everything. So maybe someone listening right now is in crisis. Maybe you're circling. Maybe you're protecting instead of connecting, or swallowing stuff instead of speaking, or you're assuming instead of asking. And maybe there's nothing dramatically wrong, but something feels off. I encourage you to catch it now. Because self destruction in marriage rarely looks like disaster, it looks like distance. And until one day, love feels heavy instead of safe. You don't need perfection. You need one brave conversation, one moment of curiosity instead of defense, one decision to walk towards that person instead of avoiding them. My husband and I almost mastered the art of self-destruction, but we chose the art of repair instead. And that made all the difference for us. I'm not claiming to know everything. I am still figuring this out as we go. I'm just sharing experiences that I've been through. Maybe self-destruction in marriage doesn't start with big betrayal. Maybe it starts with silence, an assumption, or with pride, with walking around each other instead of walking towards each other. And maybe the bravest thing you can do isn't to avoid the tension. Maybe it's to step into it gently. Maybe it's finishing the conversation that got interrupted. Or maybe it's simply saying, help me understand. Or maybe it's admitting, I think I'm overreacting or reacting to something old. Maybe it's choosing curiosity over defense. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be trigger-free. We aren't. You just have to be willing. Because resentment grows quietly. Distance grows quietly. But so does intimacy. So if you feel like you've been circling, stop circling. Walk towards that person. Have the conversation. Assume good intent and repair as quickly as you can. Choose connection over protection. And remember, you are not crazy for having triggers. And you're not weak for needing clarity. And you're not alone in learning how to love better. We are all just figuring it out together. So take a breath, take a moment, show yourself grace, show your husband or your partner grace, and know that you're not alone. Thank you guys for sharing this space with me and for allowing me to be open and honest. I'll see y'all next time.